First, I would just like to thank everyone for coming to our virtual event today. My name is Chi Wang. I am the Senior Marketing Manager for the training course we're about to demonstrate today. To provide everybody with a bit of context, ACS is now offering a robust collection of learning and training resources under the ACS Institute brand that are aimed at our broader mission of advancing the chemistry community. And we will be demonstrating the new ACS Essentials of Lab Safety for General Chemistry today, which is the first of the 6 safety courses currently planned for the ACS Center for Lab Safety. As you see on the slide, the second and the third courses, ACS Case Studies for Research Lab Safety and the ACS Essentials of Lab Safety for TAs and instructors will be available in March, and they can be adopted for the summer and fall semester. Lastly, ACS Essentials of Lab Safety for Organic Chemistry and the Best Practices for Basic Lab Techniques, which is a 2-part video series. They're expected to launch in the winter and can be adopted as early as spring 2023. My colleague, Dr. Jessica Martin, will give us a quick tour within the course. After that, Mike Woodruff, the Assistant Marketing Director, will share information on how you can get access for your institution.
All right. So, hello. As Chi said, I'm Jessica Martin, and I work on designing courses for the ACS Center for Lab Safety. And today I'm going to walk you through one of our courses designed to support instructors teaching introductory chemistry courses. ACS Essentials of Lab Safety for General Chemistry is an interactive introduction to working safely within a lab environment. So when students enter the course, you'll notice a few navigation aids, including a top bar up here where students can customize accessibility features, look up keywords in the glossary, or take a deeper dive into additional content under resources. Accessibility features like closed captioning and screen reading can be helpful for many different types of students, making for a more inclusive learning environment. Now, the basis of this course is the RAMP model, developed over time by the dedicated expert membership of the American Chemical Society. RAMP is an approach to considering lab safety from a risk-based perspective. RAMP stands for Recognize Hazards, Assess the Risks of those hazards, Minimize the Risks, and Prepare for Emergencies. Learners are introduced to the basics of risk-based thinking throughout the lessons of this course. They begin to learn how to recognize hazards through an introduction to GHS pictograms, container labels, and safety data sheets. I will show you some examples of this here. Now, to introduce learners to the 9 GHS pictograms, we split them into groups of 3 and have learners examine the pictograms and the lists of hazards they represent and reason through matching them to one another before we present a short lecture on them. So as you can see here, this is an example of a click and drop activity within the course. So they can go ahead and take a crack at this and see if they're right. If they're not, they're going to be encouraged to try again until they're able to match the 3. And so once they've successfully done so, well, before that, each of these questions also comes with a little hint as well that they can go ahead and tap and take a look at to get a little bit of assistance to think about the question. And then once they get it correct, they see this and they move on to the next slide. Now, this activity is meant to get learners to look closely at the pictograms themselves, as well as gain an appreciation for the many hazards each of these pictograms represents. Later in this lesson, we introduce them to the labels on primary chemical containers. So not only do they get exposure to the pictograms again, but they also get exposure to signal words, hazard statements, and precautionary statements that are typically found on these labels. This gives them an appreciation for the fact that they're going to get a lot of the same information in multiple ways. Finally, we bring these 2 ideas together by having them identify GHS pictograms on containers of chemicals they will likely have heard of before. Here, we are using a bottle of ethanol. In this way, we aim to encourage them to start associating the lists of hazards of which to be aware when handling these common chemicals. So as you can see, learners will be asked to reason through issues and interact, not simply observe. This helps prime them for learning and keeps them engaged, as you can be confident that they will enter your lab on day one with a common understanding of safety expectations. They're introduced to the concept of assessing the risks and hazards through exercises that are accessible to beginners. In this set of exercises here, learners are prompted through a series of questions to consider a hazard, the hot plate, and the risk posed by the hazard, burning themselves on something heated by it. By leading them through the series of questions, the learner constructs a very basic risk matrix in which they consider the probability of the occurrence of the risk as well as the severity of the outcome of the risk in order to decide whether or not something is actually high risk or whether it's low risk. They are then prompted through interactivities and videos to explore the best practices to minimize risks in a lab. I will show you some of these examples here. So in this interactivity, learners examine the outfits of students preparing to come to lab and explore what may need to change so that their clothes help to minimize risks they may face in the lab. After they go through this click and reveal activity, they can then flip the images to change the outfits. We also have a note that encourages learners to check the rules for lab attire at their own institutions, as these may vary based on identified risks. Learners are also prompted to examine a cluttered lab bench to determine what stays and what must go. They then get to clear that lab bench of the unnecessary items by clicking to the next page. We have also included videos, videos that emphasize important ways to minimize hazards. So in this video here, they're introduced to selecting appropriately sized nitrile gloves. The purpose here is to not only introduce them to PPE, but also to sensitize them to the fact that PPE cannot minimize risks if it does not fit appropriately. Finally, they consider ways to respond to an emergency, which includes imagery and videos that expose them to the use of common emergency equipment in a setting similar to what they will encounter rather than something that is dated or relies on illustration, making the content more relatable. So as an example of this, here we have included a video of a person explaining the proper use of a safety shower. Now, it is not common for students to get to see a safety shower in operation before they themselves need to use one in an emergency. This gives them a chance to see how it operates and what to expect when they initiate one. Now, as you can see from all these examples I just showed you, the entire course is littered with different types of questions and interactivities that are designed to prompt inquiry and engagement. So the content is organized into 5 lessons that take the learner through the topics of academic success and safety, the RAMP framework, communication in the lab, best practices used to minimize risks, and the means of preparing for lab emergencies. The course concludes with a situation-based assessment called A Day in the Lab, in which the learner receives instant feedback after each question to reinforce the concepts covered in the course. Now, throughout the first 5 lessons, inquiry-based questions are not graded. However, the situation-based assessment at the end is graded. Now, the whole course, including the assessment, takes about 90 minutes to complete. It can be done in one sitting or in several. Now, I have a PhD in chemistry myself, as well as experience teaching, and I've been well mentored by the amazing communities of the ACS Division of Chemical Health and Safety and SHIMA. Upon joining ACS Publications as a product manager focused on lab safety, I found myself very fortunate to be working with the team brought together to design this course. It included professors facing the challenges of instruction in undergraduate chemistry labs, experienced laboratory safety professionals working in academic institutions, and research professors who have worked to improve safety in academic research labs. As I worked with these outstanding professionals, we engaged in spirited debate to decide what to cover and how to deliver complex topics. And we always kept our goal in view: to create an introductory course that was comprehensive and authoritative, and also engaging for the beginning learner. Additionally, by introducing the concept of RAMP to learners from the start, instructors can build on these concepts using other ACS resources. In fact, a short list of these resources can be found at the resources button at the top that will already have been shared with your students. Also, to help save you time and ensure accountability, we have built this course to integrate with your learning management system. Our team will be here to help your LMS administrator set up the course and handle any questions or concerns along the way. Finally, our team welcomes your feedback on this course. This is not a one and done product. As we gather feedback, we will identify ways to improve the course over time, keeping you and your students up to date and ready to work in labs safely. And with that, I will go ahead and hand it to Mike Woodruff.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Chi, would you be able to bring up our next slides? So again, thank you. I wanted to note that that was just a brief tour that we saw of only a couple of the modules and even some of the accessibility features. This is a more exhaustive table of contents. And in just a couple of minutes, we're going to invite everybody on this call to sign up to get 30 days of instructor evaluation access to the program so that you can go through and invite and evaluate the program in its entirety to see how it would fit within your curriculum. So I wanted to do a really brief recap on some of the key points that Jessica pointed out. First, this is a peer-reviewed safety solution. Jessica was responsible of refereeing the feedback from a number of recognized industry experts. Many of these folks have been the ones to pick up the pieces after an unfortunate incident at universities that we're aware of. And they've taken those lessons that they've learned and they've helped us to use that to produce this product, ideally to help you guys prevent the next incident. It's intended to be very easy to implement, and during that implementation process, we do offer some direct support. Some of the key features here is it's going to save you a lot of time. There's no need to prepare with this or to assess the students. All of that's taken care of in your LMS as well as record keeping. It will include a TA or instructor course for those that adopt it so that you can do additional training that's specific to the expectations of the TA supervising these students. And then I did want to point out the modern multimedia format. When I speak with people addressing safety needs right now, I hear of all kinds of stories from PowerPoints to PDF handouts to old videos, from even in the 1990s. We've gone to pretty much great lengths to make sure that this is current and relatable to the students that are going to be in your lab. It's multi-device friendly, meaning when you assign it, you can be confident that the students can complete this on their desktop, their laptop, or a mobile device like an iPad. Again, it is designed to integrate into your LMS, and we'll deliver a SCORM package to you with assistance setting that up. With the overall system is there to help you achieve accountability and ensure that all of your students reach a common level of understanding with safety language and expectations of that safety awareness mindset going into the lab. I saw a couple questions come through that I wanted to address. First, this is designed to be used before a student walks into the lab for the first time. Universities are opting to use it before the first Gen Chem lab and sometimes to administer it a second time before they go into the second lab. And that's really up to the university and how they determine the best policy. A couple other questions. I was asked to reshare the poll. So the number one issue here that we have is assessing student proficiency, and that's something that this program has been designed to take care of. It tracks their progress through it as well as when they've finished it and records that information in your LMS. It's also designed to address the time that is required of you to prepare for these classes and to train the students. The authoritative nature here, again, I put a picture up of the ACS subject matter experts that we relied on to help develop this. So this really was designed to help alleviate a number of the pain points that we're experiencing as we try to train our students to be safe in the lab. So we want to invite everyone on this call to sign up to receive 30-day instructor evaluation access. To do that, take out your cell phone, just hold the photo over this QR code and it will give you an option. You can click to open a form. You can also key in this URL that I think we'll get here in the question and answer here in just a moment. You'll also receive a copy of this invitation in the follow-up email with the recording of this call. And I also want to note there's two options that you're going to be able to pick. You can pick one or both, 30-day evaluation access, as well as you can let us know you're interested in an early adopter program. ACS is looking to find a limited number of universities that are interested in deploying this in large scale and committing to taking notes as to the outcomes so that we can use that information to both improve the product and conduct future promotions. In exchange for that, the early adopters do receive quite substantial preferential pricing. And when you check that option, a representative will get in touch with you to guide you through that entire process. With that, I wanted to open up the time here to ask questions, and I see a number of them coming in the Q&A.
I'm going to start with this one. It seems like a couple of people are asking about tracking students' progress. So for example, how is the progress of student assessed?
Yeah, I mean, we do deliver it off the content delivery network. We do get those metrics. We can work with you on how granular you want those. Each module is gated, so they can't move to the next module unless they complete one module. And the assessments are, the summative at the end is a pass-fail, and they'll get a certificate. So at the high level, you'll know if they've actually completed the course and if they've actually passed the course. In terms of tracking module by module progress, we can work with you depending on metrics you'd want to track to see that. So we don't track at the video level. Video is a piece of media that's embedded into the module. We're not tracking streaming media progress, but we will know how much of the course itself in the module, what the progress is.
Michael, do we track the detailed scores at the day in the lab ending assessment?
This is a pass-fail exam that they're taking. And what we found with most of our customers is that they wanted to know that they've actually completed and passed this course. It's not a scored assessment per se, but that is some of the feedback that we're looking to get, is how important is scored feedback on something like a lab safety course to our audience. What we found so far is that this is usually something assigned. They want to make sure that students complete it, as opposed to adding it to a score for the class itself. But it is something that we're really open to feedback on and understanding if that's data that you'd want to pass along to your LMS and then put it into your LMS gradebook.
I see another question about whether this is hosted on ACS servers or university servers. This is something that's delivered as a SCORM package into your LMS. So the short answer of that is the data is hosted on your LMS. We will not have access to individual student privacy information. I see a lot of questions on cost and who pays. The cost is a variable, and it depends on the size of the implementation. A good ballpark is to roughly calculate the cost of using some workbooks. Now, I know that is a wide range, but we see implementations as low as 15 to 30 students to as large as 3,000 or more. And there is some variability in there. When you submit this link that she has up, your representative will be more than happy to give you exact costs based on your unique needs. Also, the trial version is available for one individual within the university. If you'd like to refer this link on to additional administrators, safety professionals, or other faculty, please don't hesitate to pass it on. We're happy to get as much university level access as you need to perform an adequate evaluation of the program. And then I have who pays here. Is the institution or the student the one who pays? And the answer is really, it's up to you. I've seen a couple options considered. In some cases, schools are going to the university and asking for the ability to raise lab fees by a couple of dollars in order to cover this. Sometimes the chemical health and safety department has decided that they might want to cover the cost of implementation, at which time they would typically then add some requirements that every student complete it, whether they come from a high school AP program or a transfer. That way they establish a common level of safety understanding.
I have a quick question here that we can address quickly. So this question is, since this course is designed to be done before students first enter the lab, how long is the course?
It takes on average 90 minutes for a student to complete this course. Now that can certainly go up and down depending on their reading comprehension, as well as their ability to maintain attention. You can come and go from the course and it will preserve your progress. So if a student gets in, works for 20 minutes and has to go somewhere, they can rejoin right where they left off.
Here's another question. Is the cost per student per semester they access the course?
That's the current setup. But we do have some things in place to try and manage that so that you're not paying double for a student where you want to implement it for lab 1 and lab 2. We also have a number of things that your salesperson can help you with to ensure that you're not scrambling to find a seat. Meaning when we provision this, we provision it with a large margin of error. So if you have an inbound flux of transfer students or more people in your class than you anticipated, it wouldn't impact your cost or your ability to assign the program. So that is something that we work with to prevent those unexpected challenges.
And here's another question about the learning management system. In order to load this into our school's LMS, would this be done on the end of the faculty? What is the process?
This is a pretty typical process for SCORM package integration into your LMS. Usually we'll get in touch with your IT staff. Most schools have an LMS administrator. Once we get in touch with the LMS admin, they will set up your course like they will for a lot of materials in your course. We send you a SCORM package, you go to your LMS, and we have help files and we'll work through this, but it's as simple as we get you a SCORM package, you upload it into your course, you assign the modules by date, and then the links are ready and available when you want them to be to your students. It's a lot of the features on assignability are driven by the LMS, where you have assets or content in there, and you're able to set all the kind of the course rules with the LMS.
And the next question, can this course be adapted to the high school level?
Short answer to that is yes. I think you could use it right now as it is in the high school level. And we also do have, as we do with other ACS products, tend to have specialty pricing for high schools who may not be able to have the same ability to support programs like this.
Here's another question. This question is from the person who has a small lab. So does this course apply to a small lab as well?
It does. You can use it with as few or as many students as you like.
I don't know if there's a way to get a little more clarification, because I saw a few questions about use for an industry lab. This course was designed with, with students in a teaching lab in mind. However, I would strongly encourage those who are here looking for an industrial solution to go ahead and sign up for the evaluator version of the course and take a look at it to see what is of interest to you, because we are working on developing a line for industry as well. But yeah, we'd love to do that. And if you put your information in, there's an evaluator survey at the end. And if you put that information in, we'd love to reach out and get a little more information in terms of what you're looking for and how we can meet those needs with what is covered in the current course.
Yeah, but I think regardless of lab size, the concepts and the RAMP framework and the framework for the content strategy here applies to large, small lab. It's really about how to be safe in a lab as opposed to specific to a type of lab.
I've seen a couple questions on pass-fail criteria. Michael Powers, do we have a percentage that we set that?
So I can answer that. The way that we've designed it, we have two different versions, depending on what your interest is. The way we've set it up overall is the final, A Day in the Lab assessment has 15 questions that pop up throughout them going through a rather eventful day in the lab. And 3 questions pertain to each of the 5 lessons. And so at the end, whichever ones they have passed all 3 questions on for that lesson, they do not have to review any content. For the ones that they answered less than all 3 correctly, they then have some content to go through and review, and they are sent through reviewing that content before they go on to their certificate. We don't have them repeat the test, and we don't have them go back all the way through the module, or else it would become an incredibly long course. But we do look to reinforce those key points. Yeah. We also have a version of the course where if they get 2 of the 3 correct, then they are allowed to pass. And so we can talk about which one you would be interested in if you did want to sign up for that.
Yeah, and on assessment, the pedagogical strategy here is there are knowledge checks, there's practice, there are formative assessment and summative assessment, all those types of assessment. The goal here at the end is with the day in the lab is really to take them through and really make sure that they understand all the concepts. And then the configuration on grading criteria are the options that Jessica had spoken to. And those are configurations we can put in place before we send you the package.
And I have another question. If the course is adopted, will you have a separate, more intense training for instructors and TAs?
So we're glad you asked. Yes, we will. We are actually working on the course, as was mentioned at the beginning, for TAs and instructors, and it is being developed in tandem with these courses so that you are prepared for what your students are going to be exposed to here. The target audience for it is teaching assistants and newer instructors, and we expect to have that ready to start seeing demos and being able to do an evaluator version at the end of this month.
Gee, I see a number of questions about ADA compliance. Jessica, did you want to bring that up?
Sure. We've worked to make this course accessible. And what we mean by that is we have closed captioning, of course. We've paid attention to color and buttons and all of that for visually impaired, and it is accessible by screen readers.
Yeah, in the alt text is written. It's a WCAG, if anybody's familiar with accessibility, WCAG 88 requirement 508. We're actually in the process of getting a VPAT written, so it's available, and you'll see feature by feature what we support and how we support it as we evolve. That should be coming out within the next 6 months or so we can give you really specific detail. But we're happy, should you ask, to go through point by point if you have any questions on accessibility.
Here's another question about the trial, since we just mentioned that. How many students are available for the trial version?
So the trial version is not intended for student use. It's intended for instructor evaluation, kind of like a desktop copy of a textbook. So when you submit your form online, put those notes in there. And the representative that gets back in touch with you will propose some options for looking at it with a select student population. There's another question in the chat about not having an ISBN available for students. And I think what the attendee is asking is there a way to prescribe that a student take this class independent of the university managing this or loading it in their LMS? And the answer is yes. And if you want to do that in mass, please do get in touch with us. There's some ways to do that. We do have an option available where a student can enter a credit card and complete this course and then bring you essentially a picture of their certificate. So I see a user asking about the difference between an early adopter program and a 30-day instructor evaluation. The 30-day evaluation is, again, analogous to receiving an instructor textbook or a desk copy or sample. The early adopter program is when somebody commits to a large-scale implementation with their students. And in the process of that commitment, they also commit to doing some pretty heavy evaluation and feedback with ACS, meaning document what happened. Has your incident level been able to be decreased? How have students responded to this? And provide us with that information so that we can use it not only to improve this, but to help others take advantage of what we've learned. And we do provide pretty substantial pricing discounts for people who are able to commit to that level of interaction.
Thank you, Mike. And I see a question that's related. The question is, if we want to pilot with a small class, how soon can we do that?
Yes, we have a group that's interested in beginning their pilot right now. So as soon as you want to start, we're largely capable of implementing this for you.
I also see a question asking whether the TA course is suitable for undergraduate students that are assisting in the lab.
Okay, yeah, I saw a question about that. In terms of any students working in a research lab, you may actually be more interested in our ACS case studies course, which is one of the courses we expect to have ready by the end of March. So I definitely encourage you to stay tuned for that, because that will be really useful for those working as researchers. Now, if you're using your undergraduates as TAs, which I went to a primarily undergraduate institution myself as an undergraduate and got to work as a TA, and it's a fantastic experience for them. I would say that yes, it would actually make a lot of sense for them to also take the TA and instructors course.
I do see a common question that I receive. I think Jessica is answering it, which is how long do students have to complete the resource? And my understanding is they can revisit that resource for that entire semester. So is this course suitable for online labs where students use home lab kits? That's one I'd really like to defer to Jessica, but I would encourage the students to take that, because at some point they're likely to return to your university. And if you want to establish a common level of understanding and safety, it's good that all of your students, whether they're starting in undergraduate Gen Chem or whether they're joining you for organic chem, it's nice to have them at a common level and a common understanding. So I would definitely assign it to a student with an at-home lab.
Yep, and I agree with Mike. The information that's in there, it's good information to have if they are going to be entering a lab environment at any time. So it is absolutely still a good resource, even if they are doing at-home experiments. It can also sensitize them and start a conversation with you in terms of what they should have available if they are doing at-home labs, such as having some sort of water source available in case there are contamination issues, and how to address when they're running experiments. So the content is still very useful.
At last, I will just bring back this QR code. If you are interested in joining the 30-day evaluation trial or the early adopter program, you can go ahead and scan the QR code. Thank you, everybody, for joining today.